The morning light filtered through the curtains as Jungkook squirmed away from Taeyoung's embrace on the bed. Taeyoung tightened his hold, his voice soft and drowsy. "Don't go, Rue. Stay a little longer." Jungkook chuckled, brushing a strand of hair from Taeyoung's face. "It's my workout time, love. I'll be back before you know it." Taeyoung groaned, rolling onto his side with a pout. "I swear, I'll have to wear you out at night just so you'll stay beside me until I wake up." Jungkook's laughter filled the room as he slipped into his joggers. "You're impossible, Tainy," he teased, leaning down to press a lingering kiss to Taeyoung's forehead. "But I love you for it." As he reached the door, Jungkook called out with a mischievous grin, "Tainy, wake up. You've got to head to the office. Don't forget about Fiona." Taeyoung groaned dramatically, grabbing a pillow and tossing it in Jungkook's direction. "Rue, why would you ruin my morning by mentioning her? Ugh, you're the worst." Jungkook dodged the pillow effortlessly, his smile widening. 15 more minutes, okay? Then you're up." With that, he slipped out of the room, leaving behind the faint scent of his cologne. Taeyoung lay there for a moment, the warmth of the bed fading without Jungkook beside him. He turned to Jungkook's side, his fingers brushing the empty space. "The bed's not the same without you, Rue. It's only cozy when you're here." The morning air carried the faint melody of flame trees by Cold Chisel playing softly in the background as Taeyoung moved around the kitchen, skillfully preparing his morning drink. The earthy aroma of fresh brew swirled around him, grounding the peaceful routine of the day. Just as he reached for the glass, his phone buzzed to life, the name Fiona flashing on the screen. Taeyoung huffed in mild frustration as he slipped his earbud in. Connecting the call, he headed to the upstairs balcony, drink in hand. His real reason for going there was clear: he wanted to catch a glimpse of Jungkook returning from his jog. Sliding open the glass door, he stepped out, the warm sunlight kissing his skin as his gaze instinctively searched the street below. "Morning, Taeyoung. There's an update about your schedule today," Fiona's crisp voice cut through the moment. "Mr. Reginald wants you to join him for a meeting with one of our clients." Taeyoung frowned, sipping his drink as he leaned against the balcony railing. "Why me? Doesn't he have enough people to do that?" "Because he wants you, Taeyoung," Fiona replied with finality. "So please prepare yourself." Before he could respond, Fiona ended the call abruptly. Taeyoung rolled his eyes, muttering under his breath about how annoying early morning calls were. He decided to dial Ryan, his old friend. It had been far too long since their last chat. The call connected, and Ryan's groggy voice greeted him. "Good day, mate." "What's up, morning?" Taeyoung smiled, watching the street absently. "Day. Just thought I'd catch up. How's Alan?" Their banter flowed naturally as Ryan cracked some jokes that brought a soft laugh to Taeyoung's lips. From across the way, his blonde neighbor caught his attention. She was working out on her balcony, her lively energy impossible to ignore. Out of courtesy, Taeyoung gave a polite wave, his smile faint but kind. That was the exact moment Jungkook walked through the gate. The sight of Taeyoung leaning against the balcony wall with a smile on his face, directed toward the neighbor, immediately caught Jungkook's attention. His chest tightened with a pang of jealousy before he slammed the gate shut, the loud sound jolting Taeyoung out of his focus. "Ryan, I'll catch you later," Taeyoung said hurriedly, hanging up and calling out to Jungkook. "Rue, you're home." Jungkook looked up at him, nodding briefly before stepping inside. He didn't say much, which made Taeyoung's heart race in concern. Quickly, he bounded down the stairs to meet him. "How was your jog?" "I made your drink," Taeyoung said, his voice laced with genuine care as he offered the glass to Jungkook. Taking the glass, Jungkook sat down but didn't immediately meet Taeyoung's gaze. "Rue, Ryan was asking about you," Taeyoung added, hoping to spark a conversation. Jungkook blinked at him, clearly distracted. "Oh. How's he?" Taeyoung smiled, setting his drink down. "Great, as always." "Rue, are you okay? You look distracted." Jungkook sighed, inwardly berating himself for letting his impulsive thoughts cloud his mood. He glanced at Taeyoung, warmth finally returning to his expression. I'm okay, Tainy. Just a bit tired. It's so hot this morning. Taeyoung tilted his head, studying him for a moment. Alright, but I'm here if you ever want to talk. Okay? The sincerity in Taeyoung's words made Jungkook's heart soften. He took another sip of his drink and smiled, his earlier misgivings fading in the presence of Taeyoung's unwavering affection. Jungkook set the empty glass down with a soft clink, his gaze lingering on Taeyoung before he climbed onto his lap, his movements fluid and deliberate. Oh, is the morning blessing me? Taeyoung teased, his arms instinctively wrapping around Jungkook's torso, pulling him closer until there was no space left between them. Maybe, Jungkook whispered, his voice low and intimate, his eyes locking onto Taeyoung's with an intensity that made the world outside fade away. Taeyoung let out a soft laugh, his fingers trailing over the damp fabric of Jungkook's sweaty t-shirt, tracing patterns on his back as if memorizing every inch of him. Ah, Rue, you're something else. Jungkook leaned in, his lips brushing against Taeyoung's ear as he murmured, let's take a bath. Together. Taeyoung's lips curved into a playful smile, his head tilting slightly as he looked at Jungkook with a mix of mischief and affection. All in, babe. But tell me, what do I get out of it? Jungkook's lips quirked into a grin, his voice dropping to a teasing whisper. Just the view. Just the view? Taeyoung echoed, his head tilting further, his smile deepening as his fingers tightened their hold on Jungkook's back. You're lucky the view is worth everything. Taeyoung's gaze fell on the faint purplish mark blooming on Jungkook's neck, a secret only he knew the full story of. His fingers trailed down Jungkook's back, slipping to rest lightly on his hip. Did it hurt too much? He asked softly, his voice laced with both concern and a hint of mischief. Jungkook's lips curved into a small, knowing smile. It wasn't pain, Tainy, it was pleasure. Taeyoung's eyes sparkled with playful curiosity. How much pleasure? Put it into words for me. Jungkook let out a breathy laugh, shaking his head. You're impossible. Shut up, you're getting late. Come on. He stood, his hand wrapping around Taeyoung's wrist, tugging him gently. But as Taeyoung rose, he couldn't resist pulling Jungkook into a tight embrace, his arms circling Jungkook's waist as he rested his head on his shoulder. His eyes fluttered shut, and for a moment, the world outside ceased to exist. I don't feel like going to the office, Rue, he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. I just want to stay here, beside you. Jungkook's heart softened at the vulnerability in Taeyoung's words. His hand moved instinctively to Taeyoung's back, tracing soothing circles. Tainy, he said gently, his voice steady yet tender, we can't give Granddad any reason to insult you. You're going to the office, okay? Taeyoung sighed, his grip tightening for just a second longer before he pulled back slightly, his forehead resting against Jungkook's. You always know how to ruin my excuses, he said with a soft smile, his eyes lingering on Jungkook's. Jungkook chuckled, brushing a strand of hair from Taeyoung's face. And you always know how to make me want to stay. Taeyoung adjusted his tie in front of the mirror, brushing his hair meticulously as he chuckled to himself, recalling Reginald's stern words from the previous night, CEO? You? He tossed the comb onto the dresser with a sigh and strode out of the room. Seated on the couch, he bent down to slip on his black leather shoes. Tainy, a soft, familiar voice interrupted his thoughts. Taeyoung looked up to see Jungkook standing there, fresh and radiant after their shared bath. His damp hair fell loosely across his forehead, framing his face with a soft allure that made Taeyoung pause. Rising to his feet, Taeyoung reached out, his fingers gently combing Jungkook's hair backward, his eyes traveling with intent over every strand. You didn't brush your pretty hair, love, he murmured, his voice carrying a playful tenderness. Jungkook stopped Taeyoung's hand mid-motion, a smile tugging at his lips. I'll take care of it. For now, I'm just putting this basket in the car. What's in it, Rue? Taeyoung asked, curious. Drinks and snacks, Jungkook replied, his tone warm. In case you don't get time to grab anything. Trust me, the drink will keep you refreshed all day. Taeyong blinked, his lashes fluttering, as he stared at Jungkook, touched by his thoughtful gesture. Don't give me that look, Tainy, Jungkook teased with a soft laugh. I'm just trying to keep you energetic and enthusiastic till evening. Alright, babe, cool, Taeyong replied, smiling as they walked to the car together. Jungkook placed the basket on the back seat with careful precision, but as he turned, Taeyong stood there, his gaze locked onto Jungkook. What? Jungkook asked, raising an eyebrow. Taeyong grabbed Jungkook's hand, pulling him close. I feel like you're my wife, he teased with a playful grin. Jungkook rolled his eyes but smirked. I'm not your wife, Taeyong Nathaniel. I'm a guy, so at most, I can be your huss. Before Jungkook could finish, Taeyong inched closer, cutting him off with a mischievous glint in his eyes. Wear a skirt and I'll see if there's hope, he said, his lips curving into a flirtatious smile. Stop it, Tainy, Jungkook said, yanking his hand away and poking his tongue against his cheek with a hint of annoyance. He looked away, but the blush on his face betrayed his feelings. Taeyong chuckled as he slid into the car, rolling the window down to look at Jungkook. Rue, just kidding, okay? I love you. Jungkook, you're everything, and you're so damn pretty, he whispered the last part with a wink, slipping on his sunglasses as he smiled at Jungkook. Jungkook watched him drive away, his heart swelling with affection as a rosy blush spread across his cheeks. Jungkook sat in his living room, his posture relaxed but his mind sharp as he guided Minji through a video call. Her nervous energy was palpable even through the screen. Minji, relax, Jungkook said gently. Let me check my mails real quick. Kook, Minji said, her voice tinged with uncertainty, I don't think I can pull off your role in the organization. You can, Minji. I'm here to help you, Jungkook reassured her, his tone calm and encouraging. Check the document I've shared, it has everything you need for your next meeting. Minji opened the document quickly, her eyes scanning the details. Kook, she said after a pause, I can't replace you, neither in this organization nor in Uncle's life. Jungkook smiled faintly, his expression softening. Minji, just be ambitious, everything will fall into place. Trust me, you're capable. Suddenly, his father's voice echoed in the cabin where Minji sat, pulling her attention away. She minimized the laptop screen and stood to greet him. Minji, are we ready for the meeting? John asked, his presence commanding yet composed. Yes, Uncle, 10 minutes. I'll be there, Minji replied confidently. John nodded with approval, a rare smile gracing his lips. Good. I trust you won't let me down. As he turned to leave, he paused briefly, his tone dropping. Minji, don't keep any contact with the one I hate the most now. Minji's throat tightened as she nodded solemnly. Once alone, she sat back down and opened her laptop, her eyes meeting Jungkook's tear-stained ones on the screen. Kook, Minji whispered. Appa doesn't hate you. He's just broken. Jungkook wiped his tears quickly, his voice steady as he redirected her focus. Just glance through the document before the meeting, Minji. Don't worry about the ongoing design, I'll work on it for you. Present it confidently, and feel free to add your points. Minji nodded, her expression softening. Thank you, Minji. Don't thank me, Kook. I should be the one thanking you for trusting me with your organization, Minji replied with a faint smile. You deserve this position, Minji. You're capable enough to handle it, I know you are. Taeyong sat back in his chair, an air of disinterest evident as the HR department head, Kevin, finished his briefing. Unlike Fiona, Kevin spoke with a mix of respect and apprehension toward Taeyong. Sir, is there any clarification you need? Kevin asked cautiously. Taeyong raised an eyebrow, spinning the pen between his fingers. Yes, why is it so boring? Kevin froze for a moment, unsure how to respond. Sir? The key people in this organization, Taeyong continued, his tone sharp yet casual, they're dull. You know what that means? Kevin swallowed hard. We could bring in more dynamic individuals? Taeyong flicked the pen onto the desk and checked his watch. It had been 2 hours since he left home, 2 hours too long. If needed, replace them, he said with a nonchalant shrug. Kevin stiffened, his mind racing. His young CEO seemed unpredictable. Was he about to upend the organization? Hey, Kevin, can I borrow your phone? Taeyong asked, standing up abruptly. Kevin hesitated. Sir, where's your phone? Don't ask me questions, Taeyong said, his voice firm. Kevin quickly unlocked his phone and handed it over, his nervous eyes darting toward the door, silently praying Fiona wouldn't catch him. Taeyong dialed Jungkook's number as he walked to the window. Kevin fidgeted in his chair, glancing at the door anxiously. Hey, Taeyong, Jungkook's voice came through, warm and familiar. Seems busy? Taeyong asked, a small smirk tugging at his lips. No, I was in the washroom, Jungkook replied. Whose number is this? Someone from the office, Taeyong said, dismissing the question. Listen, I need your passport details. Mail them to me, okay? Why? Jungkook's voice carried a hint of suspicion. Just do it, babe. Ryan will help us get a marriage certificate, Taeyong said, his tone casual as if it were the most natural thing in the world. A fake one? Jungkook asked, his voice tinged with amusement. No. We'll sign it, don't bother. It's just for the certificates, Taeyong replied breezily. Chill. Jungkook hesitated. Shouldn't we talk to Granddad, Taeyong? Kevin's voice interrupted, his panic barely contained. Sir. Sir, please. Don't put me in trouble. Taeyong shushed him, waving him off as he turned back to the window, his gaze fixed on the city skyline. Just then, Reginald walked into the room. Kevin bolted to his feet, his face pale as a sheet. Reginald silenced him with a stern glance before turning his attention to Taeyong. Taeyong ended the call and turned around, only to be met with a splash of cold water. The glass landed on the table with a resounding thud. Taeyong stood there, stunned, glaring at his grandfather in disbelief. To wake you up, Taeyong, Reginald said, his voice laced with irritation. We have a meeting now, and I expected you to be there. Wipe your face and follow me like the heir of Reginald Nathaniel. He walked to the door but paused, turning to add, 5 minutes, Taeyong. Kevin scrambled to hand Taeyong tissues, his hands trembling. Sir. Taeyong yanked the tissues out of his hand, wiped his face briskly, grabbed his belongings, and stormed out of the room. The meeting went by with Taeyong sitting silently, his role minimized as Reginald commanded the room like a monarch. Taeyong felt the weight of being sidelined, his presence ignored as his grandfather stole the spotlight. Once the meeting concluded, Reginald strode back to his cabin without so much as a glance at Taeyong. Left alone in the conference hall, Taeyong fumed. His fists clenched as he grabbed a bottle of water and stormed toward Reginald's cabin. The secretary outside tried to intercept him. Sir, please. Taeyong silenced her with a piercing glare, pushing the door open. Reginald looked up from his laptop, his expression unreadable as Taeyong marched in, unscrewing the cap of the bottle. Before Reginald could utter a word, Taeyong poured the water over his head, the icy droplets cascading down his face and soaking his suit. Reginald sat there, his eyes closed, his jaw tightening in anger. Taeyong placed the empty bottle on the desk with a loud thud. That's for humiliating me, he said, his voice steady but seething with anger. Nate, a voice boomed from behind. Alex entered the room, his face twisted in fury. Without a second thought, he grabbed Taeyong by the collar, his grip tight and unrelenting. How dare you do that? Alex snarled, his eyes blazing. Taeyong remained unfazed, his gaze piercing as he stared Alex down. Alex! Reginald's voice thundered, cutting through the tension. He stood, his presence commanding the room. Hand off, Alex. Now. Alex faltered, his grip loosening until his hand fell to his side. He looked down, realizing his mistake. Taeyong dusted off his collar, his expression unbothered as he turned and exited the cabin without a word. Alex stood there, his gaze fixed on the floor, shame washing over him. Reginald's voice broke the silence. "Did you forget who Taeyong is? Did you forget he's my blood? He's a Nathaniel." Alex stammered, "Reg, I'm sorry. I lost it, I saw him disrespecting you, and I—" "You don't raise your hand to my heir," Reginald snapped. "Don't repeat this." Alex nodded quickly, his voice trembling. "I'll apologize to Nate, if you want." "Leave it here," Reginald said, his tone cold. "But don't make me regret trusting you." Reginald reclined in his chair, his sharp eyes studying Alex as he composed himself after the tense confrontation. "So, Alex," Reginald said, his tone calm but firm. "What brings you here?" Alex hesitated for a moment, stepping closer to Reginald's desk. His expression was a mix of concern and deference as he carefully chose his words. "Reg, I've been running into some difficulties lately," he began, his voice tinged with embarrassment. "Last month's profits fell short, and there's a pending payment I can't manage. I was hoping you could intervene with the bank." Reginald sighed, leaning back in his chair as he folded his arms. "Alex, you know as well as I do that managing your business means facing its ups and downs. Still, I won't see you struggling on your own." He reached into the drawer and pulled out his checkbook, placing it firmly on the desk. "Write the amount you need, and I'll sign it." Alex's eyes widened, and he quickly shook his head. "No, Reg, I can't ask for that much. You've helped me so many times already. I was only thinking about a word to the bank, not—" "Alex," Reginald interrupted, his voice authoritative. "I said write the amount. You need to sort this out, no excuses." Alex nodded reluctantly, picking up the pen. He wrote the figure cautiously, his hands trembling slightly. When he handed the check back to Reginald, his gaze flickered, scanning Reginald's face for any sign of disapproval. Reginald glanced at the number, his face unreadable as he signed the check with a quick flourish. "Now, watch your business closely," Reginald said, handing the check back to Alex. "If it gets too tough, it might be time to consider selling it." Alex froze, the weight of Reginald's words sinking in. "Selling? Reg, I've worked so hard to build this. I can't imagine." "It's your decision," Reginald cut in. "But understand this, letting it crumble is far worse than letting it go. Keep that in mind." Alex nodded solemnly, clutching the check tightly in his hand. He stood and straightened his jacket, his posture stiff but respectful. "Thank you, Reg. I won't let you down." Reginald's gaze softened ever so slightly as he watched Alex leave. Though his words had been stern, there was an undertone of care, an unspoken bond that even frustration couldn't erode. The day had been nothing short of grueling for Taeyoung. The suffocating weight of office politics, the strict, overbearing nature of Fiona, and his own feelings of helplessness left him drained. By the time he reached home, the weariness was no longer just physical, it was etched deep into his soul. As he approached the door, fumbling for his keys, the door opened before he could ring the bell. There stood Jungkook, framed by the soft glow of the hallway light, his arms crossed and a small pout on his face. "Half an hour late, Tainy," Jungkook murmured, his voice tinged with playful reprimand. Before words could form, Taeyoung closed the distance between them, wrapping Jungkook in a tight embrace. The warmth of Jungkook's body grounded him in a way nothing else could. As he pulled back slightly, Taeyoung's lips curved into the faintest of smiles. "Punish me then," he whispered, his voice low and inviting. Jungkook's lips quirked into a smirk, his dark eyes glinting with mischief. "May I?" he asked, the teasing edge in his tone making Taeyoung's pulse race. Taeyoung spread his arms wide, a mock gesture of surrender. "All yours. Just punish me." Without hesitation, Jungkook grabbed Taeyoung by the collar, swiftly pinning him against the wall. His lips crashed onto Taeyoung's in a kiss that was anything but gentle. It was wild, consuming, and unapologetically full of raw desire. Taeyoung groaned into the kiss, his head tilting instinctively as Jungkook deepened it, his hand trailing up to cup the back of Taeyoung's neck. Then, with calculated precision, Jungkook bit down on Taeyoung's lip, not enough to hurt, but just enough to draw the faintest bead of blood. Taeyoung hissed, his breath hitching, though the pleasure still painted his lips. Jungkook leaned against the wall, his lips curving into a smirk as he wiped the remnants of passion from Taeyoung's lips. That was just a small punishment, Tainy. Taeyoung chuckled, reaching out to wrap his arms loosely around Jungkook's hips. His touch was gentle yet grounding. Rue. I'm exhausted, he murmured, his voice carrying the weight of the day. Jungkook softened, his expression shifting to one of quiet concern. Tainy, are you okay? He asked, his fingers brushing against Taeyoung's cheek. Taeyoung straightened up, his eyes meeting Jungkook's with a spark of determination. Let's go for a drive, he said suddenly, a hint of longing in his voice. Jungkook's face lit up at the suggestion. Of course. Honestly? Thank you, I could use the escape, too. He locked the house quickly, turning back to Taeyoung with an easy smile. Shall I drive, Tainy? Taeyoung didn't hesitate. He tossed the keys to Jungkook, a grin tugging at his lips as he slid into the passenger seat with a contented sigh. All yours. As they pulled out of the driveway, Taeyoung's gaze wandered to Jungkook, taking in the subtle concentration on his face as he drove. He couldn't explain it, just being beside Jungkook, watching him, calmed Taeyoung in ways nothing else could. For the first time that day, he felt at peace. Tainy, Jungkook said, glancing over briefly. Are you all right? Taeyoung nodded, though his gaze turned distant. Yeah, it's just, my granddad and Fiona. Frick. They act like they know everything, as if I have no bloody say in anything. Jungkook let out a thoughtful hum, his fingers drumming lightly on the steering wheel. Shall I give you a tip? Taeyoung's eyes narrowed, intrigued. Go on. Jungkook glanced at him with a soft smile. You know why they boss you around? It's because they think you're new to the working world. They know more about your organization than you do, or at least, that's what they believe. Break that illusion, Tainy. Show them who's the real boss. Taeyoung stared at Jungkook, amazement flickering in his expression. You're not kidding, are you, Rue? Jungkook smiled knowingly. Not at all, Taeyoung Nathaniel. You know your plus? It's your aura. You're blessed with an intimidating presence, it's magnetic. Use it wisely. But it's not just about the impression, you'll need to back it up. Do your homework. Learn everything about your organization, from top to bottom. Scan it, master it, so no employee, no granddad, no one can question your capabilities. Taeyoung's lips curved into an admiring smile. Wonderful advice, babe. But is it really that easy to acquire all this knowledge? Jungkook shook his head slightly. No, Tainy. It'll take effort. But I've already prepared some drafts for you, resources that might help. Take a look at them when you can. Taeyoung blinked in surprise. Wait, what? How do you know about Nathaniel Corporation and its day-to-day operations? Jungkook smirked, his eyes never leaving the road. From sources, my love. Now just trust me and take a look. Taeyoung couldn't help but smile, his heart swelling with gratitude as he watched Jungkook. Rue, he said softly, his voice tinged with affection, don't make me fall even more in love with you. Jungkook's laugh filled the car, light and carefree. Careful, Tainy, you might make me shy. Taeyoung chuckled, his mood lightened as they pulled into the parking lot of Quay Restaurant, overlooking Sydney Harbour, a luxurious escape for the elite. The lights of the opera house twinkled against the evening sky, promising a perfect end to their day. The atmosphere was serene yet lively, with the chatter of well-dressed patrons and the soft sound of waves lapping against the shore. As Jungkook stepped out of the car, he walked around to open the door for Taeyoung, who raised an amused brow. Ever the gentleman, huh? Taeyoung teased as he stepped out, smoothing his suit jacket. For you? Always, Jungkook replied with a smirk, offering his hand as they walked into the luxurious venue. Inside, the ambience was nothing short of exquisite. Chandeliers sparkled overhead, and the panoramic glass windows showcased the shimmering lights of the Sydney skyline. The scent of fine cuisine lingered in the air, promising an indulgent experience. Jungkook leaned in close as the maitre d' guided them to a private table by the window. "Feeling better already, Tae?" Taeyoung glanced at the view, the tension in his shoulders visibly easing as he smiled softly. "Much better." As they settled into their seats, Jungkook took out his phone, quickly swiping through to check on the drafts he'd mentioned earlier. Taeyoung noticed, his gaze softening as he watched Jungkook's focused expression. "Rue," Taeyoung said, resting his chin on his hand. "You're incredible, you know that?" Jungkook looked up, his cheeks tinged with a slight blush. "Don't start, Tae. You'll make me shy in public." Taeyoung chuckled, his voice low and warm. "Too late. I'm already in love with you, too much, it seems." Jungkook shook his head, laughing softly. "Good. You'll need that love to get through everything at work." The waiter arrived, presenting the menu with an elegant flourish. As they ordered their drinks and appetizers, the air between them remained light yet intimate, the stress of the day slowly dissipating with each passing moment. As Taeyoung gazed out at the harbor, the city lights reflecting in his eyes, he turned to Jungkook with renewed determination. "You're right, Rue. I need to own my role, not just inherit it. Granddad won't hold this over me for long." Jungkook raised his glass with a proud smile. "Now, that's my Tae. To you, ruling the Nathaniel Corporation." Taeyoung clinked his glass with Jungkook's, his heart lighter than it had been all day. Taeyoung's gaze lingered on Jungkook as they strolled down the dimly lit pathway outside the restaurant, the soft glow of lanterns casting warm light on their intertwined hands. The gentle evening breeze carried with it the faint scent of jasmine, wrapping around them in a cocoon of serenity. Everything about this moment felt perfect. Complete. Taeyoung tightened his grip on Jungkook's hand, a small smile playing on his lips. Almost instinctively, Jungkook's fingers responded, lacing tighter with Taeyoung's. As they walked, the sound of their footsteps echoed in tandem, an unspoken rhythm binding them. Suddenly, Jungkook stopped, halting Taeyoung mid-step. Taeyoung turned slightly, his brows knitting in soft curiosity. "Rue?" he asked, his voice a gentle murmur. Jungkook's lips parted, but no words came out at first. He seemed to gather his thoughts, his thumb gently grazing over Taeyoung's knuckles. Finally, he spoke, his tone unwavering yet filled with quiet emotion. "Tanny." "Yeah?" Taeyoung encouraged softly, his heart thudding in his chest as he searched Jungkook's expression. Jungkook took a deep breath, his dark eyes locking with Taeyoung's. "Let's get married. Not for a certificate, or for anyone else. But because," his voice faltered momentarily, and he exhaled slowly. "I really want to spend my life with you." Taeyoung froze, his own breath catching as he stared into Jungkook's earnest gaze. The world seemed to still around them. His hand began to slip from Jungkook's as his palm became clammy, and he nervously wetted his lips, unable to respond. Jungkook's expression shifted, concern flickering in his eyes. "I'll be back, okay?" Taeyoung said suddenly, his voice barely above a whisper as he took a step back. "Stay right here. Don't move, I'll be right back." Before Jungkook could respond, Taeyoung turned and sprinted into the restaurant, his steps quick and purposeful. Jungkook stood there, rooted to the spot, watching him go. A quiet confusion crossed his face, but he turned toward the railing and gazed out at the harbor, the water glistening under the moonlight. His thoughts swirled with questions, but deep down, he trusted Taeyoung. Inside the restroom, Taeyoung slammed the door behind him, his breathing uneven as he leaned against the wall. His hands ran through his hair, and before he realized it, tears were rolling down his cheeks. He let out a quiet laugh, shaking his head at himself. "Why am I crying?" he thought, his emotions overwhelming him. But deep down, he knew the answer. He wasn't alone anymore. Someone wanted him, someone he wanted more than anything. Someone he craved every second. For the first time, everything in his life made sense. Unable to contain his happiness, he let out a quiet, triumphant whisper, "Yes, yes." His hand clutched at the chain around his neck, and the ring dangling from it caught the light. Without hesitation, he removed the chain, cradling the ring in his hand. Meanwhile, outside, Jungkook remained by the railing, his gaze shifting occasionally toward the restaurant entrance. He sighed softly, turning back to the view as he waited. Suddenly, a pair of arms wrapped around his waist from behind, and he felt the warm, familiar breath of Taeyoung against his neck. His shoulders relaxed instantly as he tilted his head slightly, allowing Taeyoung to rest his cheek there. Taeyoung's hand slid down, gently clasping Jungkook's fingers. His thumb traced slow, deliberate circles over them before he lifted Jungkook's hand and slipped the ring onto his finger with reverence. The world around them seemed to fade away as Jungkook gazed at the ring, his lips parting slightly in awe. "Tanny," Jungkook began, his voice soft, filled with wonder. Taeyoung said nothing, only pulling Jungkook's hand up to his lips. He pressed a gentle kiss to the ring, then intertwined their fingers with a tenderness that spoke volumes. His lips brushed over Jungkook's knuckles, lingering for a moment. Jungkook smiled, his heart full. "Let's go home," he asked quietly. Taeyoung tilted his head, a mischievous glint in his eye. "Why?" "For something," Jungkook replied with a hint of playfulness. Taeyoung turned him around, his arms circling Jungkook's waist as he pulled him close. "You're too vague, Rue," he teased, but his smile betrayed his curiosity and joy. The warm morning sun streamed through the tall glass windows of Nathaniel Mining Corporation's executive boardroom. Taeyoung sat at the head of the long, polished oak table, his posture upright and composed, exuding authority. Before him were neatly stacked reports and a sleek laptop. Across the table sat Mr. Howells, the seasoned CFO of the corporation, known for his sharp wit and no-nonsense attitude. Fiona stood nearby, her ever-critical gaze assessing every move. Taeyoung glanced at the quarterly financial report Mr. Howells had just presented, his fingers tapping lightly on the edge of the table. The room was quiet, save for the occasional shuffle of papers. "I've reviewed these figures," Taeyoung began, his voice steady but curious. "The projections for Q4 mining output look promising, but I noticed a disparity between projected extraction costs and operational expenditure in Region C. It seems unusually high. Do we know what's driving this?" Mr. Howells raised an eyebrow, impressed by the sharp observation. He adjusted his glasses and nodded. "Good eye, Mr. Nathaniel. The elevated costs are primarily due to unforeseen machinery repairs after a minor landslide. It's a temporary spike, but we're monitoring it closely to ensure we're back on track by the end of the fiscal year." Taeyoung leaned back slightly, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. "Temporary, yes, but are we accounting for potential recurrences? Landslides aren't entirely within our control, so what contingency plans are we implementing to mitigate similar risks?" Mr. Howells gave a small, approving smile. "We're negotiating with a supplier to source more robust equipment, and we've hired additional geotechnical consultants to assess vulnerabilities in the terrain. I can arrange for the detailed action plan to be sent to your office." "Do that," Taeyoung said, nodding. "And let's ensure that the plan includes a comparative analysis of operational costs for Regions A and B. If Region C continues to drain resources disproportionately, we might need to reallocate efforts to more stable sites. Efficiency is key." Fiona's lips twitched into a small, almost imperceptible smile as she scribbled something on her clipboard. It was rare for her to show any form of approval, but even she couldn't deny Taeyoung's growing competence. "How about the sustainability initiatives?" Taeyoung continued, shifting the focus. "I see that we've reduced energy consumption by 5% this quarter, which is commendable. But what about community engagement programs? How are we addressing the concerns raised by local stakeholders in our primary mining zones?" Mr. Howells paused for a moment, clearly surprised by the depth of Taeyoung's inquiry. "We've allocated a portion of our budget to community development, building schools and improving local infrastructure. There's still work to be done in gaining their full trust, but progress has been steady." Taeyoung nodded thoughtfully. That's a good start, but let's ensure that it's not just about infrastructure. Focus on long-term skill development programs. Teach locals how to participate in the industry, give them ownership in the success of the mines. When they feel invested, opposition will naturally reduce, and goodwill will increase. Draft a more detailed plan, and we'll review it during the next quarterly meeting. Fiona couldn't help but step in, her tone unusually neutral but tinged with respect. That's a solid approach, Mr. Nathaniel. It shows foresight. Taeyong flashed her a brief, polite smile. Thank you, Fiona. Collaboration and foresight go hand in hand if we're to ensure stability and growth. Mr. Howells closed the report in front of him, his respect for the young Nathaniel evident. I must say, Mr. Nathaniel, you've come a long way. Your grasp of operational and financial intricacies is impressive. The company is in good hands. Taeyong acknowledged the praise with a humble nod. The corporation's legacy deserves nothing less. Thank you for your insights, Mr. Howells. Let's move forward with a stronger focus on both profitability and sustainability. As the meeting concluded and the executives filed out, Fiona lingered for a moment, her eyes assessing Taeyong. You've exceeded expectations, Taeyong, she said quietly, a rare compliment escaping her. Keep this up. Taeyong smiled to himself as the door closed behind her. He leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly. The path to commanding respect hadn't been easy, but moments like these reminded him of the strength he'd always possessed, strength that Jungkook, more than anyone else, had always believed in. Reginald leaned back in his leather chair, a rare smile tugging at the corners of his lips as Fiona concluded her briefing. The sharp yet efficient woman had recounted Taeyong's progress over the past 2 months, highlighting his growth and adaptability. Reginald could barely suppress the pride welling up in his chest as he listened. 1 more month, and he would have a future CEO, strong, confident, and ready to lead the Nathaniel Mining Corporation to its next era of greatness. Well done, Fiona, Reginald said, his voice filled with quiet satisfaction. Don't let this grip slip. This is exactly what I want. My grandson, standing at the top of this business. Fiona nodded, straightening her posture. He's capable, Mr. Nathaniel. Beside, she hesitated, glancing briefly at Reginald as though carefully weighing her words. Reginald's gaze narrowed. You may continue, Fiona. Clearing her throat, she said, Mr. Nathaniel, the guy. Rue? Reginald raised an eyebrow, his curiosity piqued. Jungkook? You mean Taeyong's boyfriend? Fiona nodded, her tone measured. Yes, sir. I believe he's played an integral role. It's subtle, but I can see and feel it in Taeyong's words and actions. Jungkook keeps him grounded, focused, on time. He's pushing Taeyong to be his best. Reginald reclined further, steepling his fingers as he processed her observation. So you think Jungkook is the perfect partner? A supportive and intelligent ally, a kind of partner a CEO would need. Perhaps, sir, Fiona replied thoughtfully. It's rare to see such a steadying influence. Before Reginald could respond, the door swung open, and Taeyong strode in, his confident presence filling the room. Fiona excused herself with a brief nod and exited, leaving grandfather and grandson alone. Reginald gestured to the seat across from him. Yes, Tae? Sit down. Taeyong eased into the chair, his posture poised yet relaxed. I wanted to discuss something, Grandad. Reginald nodded, urging him to proceed. Taeyong hesitated for a fleeting moment before speaking. Me and Rue, I mean Jungkook, have decided to, he trailed off, meeting Reginald's gaze directly. Marriage? Reginald interjected, his tone calm but curious. Taeyong shook his head slightly, a faint chuckle escaping his lips. No, Grandad. Not asking for permission or advice. I'm just letting you know. Reginald's lips twitched, his tone dropping into a measured seriousness. I know you, Tae. I'm not against it, why would I be? It's your personal life. But let me ask you this, do you deserve that guy yet? Taeyong stiffened, his jaw tightening as anger simmered beneath the surface. His hands clenched faintly, but he stayed composed. "Grandad," he began, his voice steady but firm. Reginald raised a hand, signaling for calm. "Easy, my boy. I'm just saying it might be better to wait, get promoted to the CEO post first. Then go for marriage. It's hardly a month away. Prove to me what I've asked for." Taeyong rose from his seat, his posture radiating quiet defiance. "With or without the title, I'll marry Jungkook, Grandad. That's final. But I'll take your words into consideration," he said, his tone balanced between respect and determination. Reginald watched him leave the room, disappearing down the hallway with a purpose that couldn't be denied. A smirk tugged at the elder Nathaniel's lips as he leaned back in his chair. "That's all I want, Tae," he murmured to himself. "You're on the right track. John Jungkook," he chuckled quietly. "Interesting, you're accomplishing something even Reginald Nathaniel himself couldn't. Love, it's a powerful weapon." It was noon, and Taeyong's day had been busy, filled with meetings and paperwork. Amid it all, he found himself dialing Jungkook's number. Jungkook picked up quickly, his voice calm yet slightly distracted as he worked on his latest design model to share with Minji. "Babe, are you busy?" Jungkook smiled as he glanced at the time, rolling the ring on his finger absent-mindedly. "No, Tae. Tell me. Can you come over? Let's have lunch together," Taeyong suggested. "Sure," Jungkook replied, already smiling wider at the thought of seeing Taeyong. As he hung up, his heart felt lighter, his focus now entirely on their meeting. A few minutes later, Jungkook stood in the lobby of Nathaniel Mining Corporation, waiting patiently. He glanced up just as Taeyong exited the elevator, his presence commanding and bright. "Rue," Taeyong called out warmly, striding over to him. "You could have come to my cabin." "That's okay. I don't mind waiting," Jungkook replied with a soft smile. Taeyong grabbed his hand, leading him outside where the car was parked. "Let's not go too far," Jungkook said as they walked, his practical nature showing. "You need to get back on time." "Relax, love," Taeyong reassured him, his voice light with amusement. "I've already informed the Lady Terror." Jungkook chuckled softly as they climbed into the car. Before long, they were pulling up to a luxurious restaurant, its ambience polished and serene. "Get us a private place," Taeyong instructed the staff as they arrived. Moments later, they were seated in a secluded corner, the menu lying between them as the waiter left to fetch their orders. As they waited, Taeyong's attention momentarily shifted to a message popping up on his phone. He began typing a reply quickly, focused. Jungkook watched him for a moment before speaking, his voice soft but teasing. "Hyung." Taeyong froze mid-message, slowly glancing up with a smirk. He knew exactly what Jungkook was doing. Without a word, Taeyong closed the phone and placed it on the table, leaning back in his chair with a playful glint in his eyes. "Come again, please?" Taeyong teased. Jungkook giggled, his cheeks slightly reddened as he repeated, "Hyung." His tone was light but filled with affection. Taeyong stood, his movements slow and deliberate as he made his way to Jungkook. He leaned down and settled on Jungkook's lap, one leg on either side, his arms instinctively wrapping around Jungkook's shoulders. Their eyes locked. "What does my baby want now, huh?" Taeyong murmured, his voice dropping into a warm, affectionate tone. "A lot." "Hyung," Jungkook replied, pulling Taeyong closer, their closeness charged with undeniable emotion. Taeyong chuckled softly, his forehead resting lightly against Jungkook's. "Rue, you're going to drive me crazy." Jungkook smiled, his voice gentle but unwavering. "You can go crazy, Hyung. I'll catch you." And then, Taeyong's sanity shattered. He claimed Jungkook's lips in a wild, passionate kiss, their mouths devouring each other as they succumbed to their desire. The sound of their lips smashing together was like a spark igniting a wildfire. Jungkook's hands gripped Taeyong's hips, pulling him closer as their bodies melded together. Taeyong's fingers dug into Jungkook's hair, holding him captive as their kiss deepened. A low, husky moan escaped Jungkook's throat, the sound vibrating against Taehyung's lips. Taehyung's response was a growl, his hands roaming over Jungkook's chest, teasing his nipples through the fabric. Their kiss grew more frantic, their breathing ragged. Jungkook's hands slid under Taehyung's shirt, his fingers tracing the contours of his abs. Taehyung's hips bucked, his body craving more. But just as they were about to lose themselves completely, they froze, remembering their surroundings. They were in a restaurant. With a Herculean effort, they pulled away, gasping for air. "Rue, I'm starving for something more substantial." He rubbed against Jungkook's thighs, his hardness evident. Jungkook's breathing hitched as he nestled under Taehyung's chin, inhaling the intoxicating scent of his cologne. His own desire raged like a wildfire, threatening to consume him. He ached to be engulfed by Taehyung, to feel his tanny skin on his, everywhere. "Should we head home, Rue?" Taehyung whispered, his lips grazing Jungkook's ear. Jungkook's swallow was audible, his head shaking slightly as he burrowed deeper into Taehyung's chest. Taehyung's voice dripped with concern, his fingers tracing gentle patterns on Jungkook's scalp. "Baby, I don't want you to suffer, your need is killing me." Jungkook's response was a barely audible whimper, his body language screaming for more. Taehyung's hold tightened, his lips brushing against Jungkook's forehead as they both teetered on the edge of control.